Welcome to this meeting of the Planning Committee. We are recording the meeting this evening using our webcasting system. The webcast will be transmitted live and also be available on the Council's website following the meeting. Generally, the public seating areas are not filmed. However, by entering the meeting room and using the public seating areas, you are consenting to being filmed and to the possible use of those images and sound recordings for webcasting or training purposes. I have the discretion to stop or suspend the recording of the meeting should this be necessary to maintain the proper running of the meeting. This is a meeting of the Council held in public. It's not a public meeting. All mobile devices should be switched off or set to silent so that the meeting is not interrupted by ringtones. Anyone else intending to film or audio record any part of the meeting is asked to do so in a manner that does not disturb the meeting. Please refrain from filming the public gallery or public speakers on items. If the fire alarm sounds, leave by the nearest exit and officers will advise when it's safe to return to the meeting. Before we begin this evening's meeting, I would like to remind members to speak directly into the microphone to enable those present and those watching online to be able to hear the proceedings. Finally, please could members remember to address your speeches to the chairman. Procedure for each item. The committee report is taken as read by the Planning Committee. The Planning Officer will present their report and committee members will ask any points of clarification. The meeting will allow those who have given notice that they wish to address the committee on a particular application to do so. Each person will be invited to come forward to the table at the front of the public seating area and will have 3 minutes to give their views. Once all comments have been given, the meeting will then continue for members of the committee to discuss the application and reach a decision. No further comments may be made by members of the public. No, the committee should limit discussions to material planning considerations relating to the development application. Commentary on non-planning related matters or overtly political statements are not permitted as they could have an impact on the integrity of the planning process. Summary comments should be concise and relate to the development application being considered. Thank you. I think I've got one apology for absence.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, apology from Councillor Blake with Councillor Strada as substitute. Thank you.
Thank you. Declarations of interest and lobbying. Mike?
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, I've been lobbied in writing on item number 4. I supplied the monitoring officer with a copy of that email and I've come with an open mind this evening.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. Yeah, exactly the same as Councillor Baker. Been lobbied in writing and I've informed the monitoring officer. But I come with an open mind. Thank you.
Thank you. And I've been lobbied as well. And Alex?
Yep, thank you, Chair. Exactly the same. I've been lobbied on item 4, but I have an open mind.
Alex?
Yeah, my declaration of interest is obviously that one, but of course I was still the ward councillor for the area 2 years ago where the applicant was proposing the site, and I did meet with them in the area to look around the site as well, but that was about 2 years ago and I come here with an open mind. Thank you.
Minutes. To confirm the minutes of the Planning Committee meeting held on Wednesday the 27th of August. All those in favour, please show. Thank you. And confirmation of the minutes of the Planning Committee held on Wednesday the 10th of September. on the previous minutes, sorry, on the 27th, did we have any abstentions? Oh, you wasn't there, so it's not an abstention. Sam? Okay. Okay. Well, we usually just out for that, so.
I don't sign things, unfortunately, that I don't see or read.
Okay.
Cancel mine, but I don't.
Okay. Yeah, we don't do that. Okay. So now we're on confirmation of the minutes of the planning committee held on Wednesday, the 10th of September. All those who agree with the minutes? Right. Okay. So the other two weren't here. Is that correct? Thank you. Okay. We'll go straight on to item 4, which is 250550 outline planning application with all matters reserved except for access for the erection of a building to be used as a data centre, use class B8, containing data halls, associated plant rooms, loading bay, office and administration areas, maintenance and storage areas and plant at the roof and ground level, emergency generators, chillers, coolers, fuel storage, substation compound, gatehouse, security building, site access and emergency access, internal access roads and service yard, car parking, cycle parking and EV charging, drainage infrastructure, hard and soft landscaping, biodiversity enhancements, fencing, lighting and associated work and auxiliary infrastructure, land junction with Old Neverton Road, Whitford. Can I call upon Katie, please?
Point of order, Madam Chair. I'd like to raise an issue which could be considered by this committee as its quasi-judicial role, if I may, before we begin the...
I'll just take advice on that. Carry on, Maddox.
Thank you, Chair, for your indulgence. This particular application in Neverton Road for the data centre, I'd like to draw members' attention to a Facebook post made by the leader of the council approximately 6 days ago, in which he stated, and I'll read it out here, "Another busy week in Basildon and more results delivered for local people. Secured a record-breaking £1 billion investment for a new data centre, bringing another 1,800 brand new jobs to our borough, the single biggest investment Basildon has ever had. Proof that blah blah blah, businesses, etc. Agreed plans for a brand new nature reserve, protecting green space while creating somewhere for families to enjoy." Now, the council leader's statement here suggests that this has already been agreed and done with, which calls this planning committee's quasi-judicial process into account. Now, when we look at planning applications, and there are many, we take into account material considerations, but what is of concern is the open, perhaps, bias which can be done by the leader of the Labour administration, with many Labour councillors here, and what they knew when Gavin posted these comments. The question is, of course, what would a reasonable, unbiased member of the public, what would a reasonable, unbiased member of the public consider seeing that and then voting on this evening to grant? I can see, I come here and I can see both sides of the application, but this particular issue could well be opened up for JR by members of the public who have objected to this application through writing on the documents that we've got in front of us. It could well do. So I find it very clear we have a situation here on this planning meeting where the administration has said it's all been agreed, but yet we haven't discussed it yet. We haven't done the material considerations. We haven't seen the members of the public speak or the applicants speak, and how we go from here. So I would request a deferment of this item for an investigation to be made of who knew what when this matter was given out from councillors to predetermine perhaps members of this committee. The other issue of this particular application, now it's classed as a critically important infrastructure, is that this committee doesn't necessarily have to decide it. The government is quite clear that they want something like this in the area. They may well call it in and go to the planning inspector, in which case then everyone has the right to then go to the planning inspector and give their views on what to do. And it was quite clear from a cabinet meeting a few weeks ago where an officer of this council applauded and clapped the decision for the Burnt Mills incinerator development to be stopped, in which the officer in question, I believe quite rightly, said that it was members and members of the public who finally swayed the inspector's decision. Perhaps we can say in the past that hasn't happened before, but perhaps it is now. So I will say defer it, send it to a Secretary of State, call it in, and then we'll have our say then. Because at the moment, based on this report and the Facebook message from 6 days ago, I don't believe that this committee can sit here and decide on this application this evening. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Myers. Nobody has lobbied me on this. I have an open mind on this application, and I think the members of this committee have got an open mind. They can say if they haven't. Anybody?
I've already declared in declaration, so I've got an open mind.
No. So just a second. So, you know, I haven't seen this report. I haven't seen this at all. I'm Chairman of Planning. Nobody's lobbied me. Gavin Callaghan hasn't lobbied me. Nobody. I'm speaking with an open mind. Councillor Johnnet.
Thank you very much, Chair. Just want to make Chair aware that this isn't currently not being webcast live on YouTube for the residents to see. So if that's something that can be looked into, that'd be appreciated. Thank you.
I'm going to take advice on this before.
Should we adjourn the meeting?
Yes.
Just for 2
We're
minutes?
just going to adjourn the meeting for 5-10 minutes, okay? Thank you. Thank you, everyone, for your patience. Are you ready now, Councillor Johnno? Okay, thank you. I'll pass this over to legal.
Committee, so obviously we've heard the application or the statements that have been made by Councillor Myers, and the legal view on this is that the post has been made outside of this committee by a non-committee member. All the relevant committee members sitting on this committee today have made a declaration that they have an open mind, therefore that post is irrelevant to tonight's proceedings, and therefore the legal advice is that we may continue to hear this application.
Thank you. Item 4, can you continue, Katie? Thank you.
Thank you, Chairman. Okay, where was we? Right. For you, you have an update sheet. On there are additional comments from neighbouring properties that I've put on there. Also, condition 26 of the data centre, I've amended the reason that sits with that condition. Also, there is an additional planning committee condition, that relates to the use of the building to be data centre only. Also, for item number 5, I know the Chairman's introduced it as item number 4, but I will also be talking about item number 5 together. There's also an update to condition 2, which just adds the drawing numbers in, and an updated response from the Essex Badger Protection Group. Okay. Right, before you is a slide that sets out the address of the site and the description for the data centre, as well as the address for the site for the local nature reserve and the description for that. As I said previously, I will be discussing both sites together as they are connected. And I'll go through that and hopefully I won't confuse anyone. So in front of you is the aerial imagery taken from Google. I've drawn on there the red lines for the data centre site and the local nature reserve site. So hopefully you can see them in context with one another. Right, okay, so if I talk about the data centre first. So this is the location plan for the data centre. So you can see the red line for the site, and you've got a dashed line across the bottom corner of that site which indicates a public right of way that goes across the site. So this is on the southern side of Netherden Road and to the west of Old Netherden Road, adjacent to the A127 as well, which is south. There are nearby residential properties along Old Netherden Road, a few further up Netherden Road, and you've got the Dogs Trust as well, which is to the west of the site as well. And as I said before, there is a public footpath that crosses the site, which is that dashed line. The site is in flood zone 1, so low risk of flooding. The area of the site is approximately 7.2 hectares and comprises grade 3B agricultural land, which is not best and most versatile land. To the west of the site, previously back in 2023, at a planning committee, electric vehicle charging station was approved, and that's to the west side. So there are plans on there that does show you that development next door to the data centre that's being proposed, but bear in mind that's already got approval, and that was back in 2023. These are just some photographs of the site. So as you can see, it's an empty field with pylons and overhead cables that are running through it, surrounding sort of hedges to the edge of the site. So there's just some photographs for you. This is the site plan in front of you. So as already previously said, this is an outline plan application, and we are only considering the vehicular access to the site, which is taken off Netherden Road, and emergency access off Old Netherden Road. The site is proposed to be used as for a data centre. The size of the data centre or floor space will be approximately 26,000 square metres, and that will be over 2 levels with IT halls and 3 levels of office storage. There's additional infrastructure as well to the site, which will be a substation compound, emergency generators, chillers, fuel storage, gatehouse, security building, internal roads with service yards, parking, and that parking will include electric vehicle parking, as well as cycles, drainage, fencing and lighting, as well as biodiversity enhancements and landscaping there, which you can see on the site plan. For those of you who don't know what a data centre is, this is going to be a AI, so artificial intelligence, a hyperscale data centre, which is a very large and powerful facility built to run artificial intelligence systems. It's designed to handle huge amounts of data and perform complex tasks like training AI models or processing real-time information. So that's what a data centre is. In front of you is a building heights plan, so you can see there, and hopefully you can see the key clearly. The purple building, so it is one big building, but the purple bit of the building is the data hall, and that will be up to 22 metres in height. You've got the orange bits, which are the generators, up to 10 metres in height. The light blue colour is the office element, which is up to 12 metres in height, and then you've got the substation, which is the grey area, which is 10 metres in height. So hopefully you can see that clearly. In front of you there are some CGIs, so should this be approved, this is sort of roughly what it looked like. This is an outline application, remember we are only considering access only, so the appearance, the scale, the layout will be for reserved matters, but this is just an indication, like an indicative, you know, this is what it would look like. As well, I was asked last night at our briefing about distances and what the view would look like from a neighbouring residential garden. So in front of you, you've got the top diagram shows 4 Riders, which is the Grade 2 listed building, and that's in the southeastern corner, adjacent to the A127 on that Google Earth image that you can see there, that house in the corner. So you can see the distances from you know, what the building sort of indicative massing would like compared to the residential. And again, the one below is the building sort of further up, which is sort of north of 4 Riders there. So there's some residential buildings there along Old Neverden Road. So hopefully that you can see that quite clearly up there.
Residents can't, they still can't see the webcast. There's a lot of residents on the system.
Councillor Genet, we are aware of that. The meeting's been recorded, so the stream will be uploaded tomorrow morning.
Moving on. So this is a slide that shows the vehicle access onto Neverden Road. So this is showing the primary access here in front of you. So the is a new Ghost Island junction on the A132, which is Neverden Road. The access to the site would facilitate from A132 Neverden Road by way of a new access junction and associated access road to be created in association with the approved electric vehicle charging station. So you can see there on this plan where the electric charging station will be. There will be a priority junction arrangement formed partway along the access road to facilitate access to the site. As part of the approved electric vehicle charging station access arrangements, the approved junction with the A132 will have a central island to the east of the access located on the A132 to allow pedestrians and cyclists to cross the road in 2 distinct halves. This facility will provide a link for pedestrians and cyclists to existing shared footways, cycleways on the northwestern side of the A132. This shared footway cycleway continues Wickford to the north-east and across the Neverden interchange towards Basildon to the south of the site via 2 crossing facilities, which incorporate guardrails, tactile paving and drop curbs. The approved electric charging access arrangements are resubmitted with the data centre plan application. So what you're seeing here replicates what was approved under the electrical charging station application that was approved in 2023. So they're just replicating what was previously approved. There is a secondary access as well, which is going to be for the emergency access, and that is from Old Neverden Road, and that's in the northeastern corner, northeast corner of the site. By way of a 2 metre wide footway bordering the north side of the emergency access. It proposed to provide a 2 metre wide footway along the west side of Old Neverden Road between the emergency access and Neverden Road. Some 15 metres to the south of Neverden Road, it proposed to provide tactile paving and drop crossing across Old Neverden Road to connect the proposed footways to existing footways located to the east of Old Neverden Road. Moving on to the next slide. So this is now the nature reserve. I showed you sort of the 2 sites in context with one another. This is land south to Netherden Road, approximately 13.8 hectares. The current use of the site is a grazing land and is in the Greenbelt. There is a watercourse along the eastern boundary, and part of the site does fall in flood zones 2 and 3. And to the south of the site is the Netherden Washlands Nature Reserve. Again, these are just site photographs for you. As you see, it's an open green field. This is the proposed site plan. So there will be a change of use from a grazing land to local nature reserve. The proposals will feature public access and informal footpaths, landscaping and biodiversity enhancements, creation of ponds and habitat management, and seating bench information board and directional signage. Here before you are the key issues. So these are the considerations that are in the officer's report. If I just go through a couple of them, won't go through all of them, but for the data centre, so the site is in the Greenbelt, and the development is considered to be inappropriate, which also causes harm to the openness. We have looked at the grey belt, and we don't consider the site to be grey belt because it contributes very highly towards purposes A and B of the purposes which are listed in paragraph 143 of the NPPF. There is a grade 2 listed building as well in the south eastern corner adjacent to the site, and that's grade 2. We have been working closely with Essex County Council, who raise a less than substantial harm to the building, but identified it as a medium to high harm due to setting impacts. However, we have considered the very special circumstances of this case, which are data centres are designated now as critical national infrastructure, reflecting their essential roles in supporting the UK economy and everyday life. Their significance is expected to grow further with the advancements of technology such as artificial intelligence. This designation also highlights the security risks associated with data infrastructure, underscoring the need for resilience and secure facilities. This is supported by paragraph 87 of the NPPF. Also, as part of the assessment, we've looked at alternative sites. The applicant have identified 4 sites that they did consider within the borough. All of these sites were either inside or outside the Greenbelt. However, the sites were found to be unsuitable due to their either unavailability or conflicts with existing land allocations. Therefore, the location site was deemed appropriate because although it doesn't fall within a designated employment area, it poses several key location advantages that makes it both viable and deliverable for the proposed data centre use. These include secure access to high-capacity power and fibre infrastructure, both critical for data centres operation, as well as excellent road connectivity via the adjacent A127. The site is also well served by sustainable transport options, including walking, cycling and public transport, and is situated relatively close to one of Basildon's key commercial hubs to the south of the A127, to the employment area. Also, the benefits, so we've identified economic, environmental and social benefits associated with the proposal. Economic benefits, so there is over 1 billion investment coming into the borough. Jobs creation at construction and operational phases, so at construction phase, which would be a 7-year construction, there will be 4,270 jobs available. Once the data centre is operational, there will be 120 full-time employee posts available, with an additional 60 indirect jobs. Business rates are estimated to be 1.5 million a year, which 50% of that will be retained in the borough. Also, we are seeking a Section 106 contributions towards employment, training and skills in the borough as well. Environmental and social benefits. So environmental, the biodiversity net gain is a 30% increase of biodiversity net gain on this site, which exceeds the 10% statutory requirement by the NPPF. Also, the local nature reserve will also be delivered, which is 13.8 hectares of open space that will be publicly available, and this will be secured by the Section 106. Also, you've got sustainability of the data centre. Oh. Okay. Oh, okay. And social. So the social elements of the data centre. So the data centre are now fundamental to the functioning of modern society. They underpin a wide range of essential services used by businesses, government departments, public agencies, including NHS and individuals, from enabling financial transaction and scientific research to supporting e-commerce and social media platforms.
Gates open.
Data centre provides the critical infrastructure
open.
required to meet the digital
Gates
needs of
Gates
contemporary
are
life.
open.
The proposed data centre will contribute towards this national infrastructure, helping to meet growing societal demands for secure and resilient data services. Moving on to the local nature reserve, again this is in the green belt, however the proposal put forward is considered to be appropriate development under paragraph 154B and H of the NPPF. So therefore we haven't had to go into the whole grey belt argument, so it is an appropriate development in the green belt. It will enhance ecological value and support strategic green infrastructure. As previously mentioned, part of the site is within flood zones 1, 2 and 3, but the proposal is water compatible in accordance with the NPPF. There will be an enhancement in biodiversity net gain, 72% with habitat units and 20% watercourse units. There is not a car park proposed as part of this proposal, as it's aimed for the local people, for local residents as well as employees of the data centre. But there will be cycle access and cycle parking, which will be secured via planning condition. And also the pathways will be suitable for wheelchair users and prams as well, so it will be accessible to all. Section 106, infrastructure, so non-monetary. So we are seeking a local nature reserve covenant, and that will basically say that the data centre will not be occupied until a local nature reserve has been constructed. Also, we have requested a management plan for local nature reserves, so we can ensure the long-term management is secured for this nature reserve, as well as a 30-year maintenance and monitoring for the approved biodiversity net gain. Moving on to monetary, so we are seeking employment and skills contributions. So as you can see there, it's 1.3 million. A workplace travel plan, a monitoring fee, which is over 7,000, and a sustainable transport contribution as well, which is based on the floor area that's created. So if it is the 26,000 square metres, then you're looking at over 400,000 monies for that to contribute towards upgrading cycle network along the Neverden Road corridor towards Basildon and Wickford. In addition to that, a voluntary offer has been put forward for 2 million towards an education fund as well. This is not material to the decision of the application, but that has been offered to us. In front of you is the planning balance, so you can see sort of the positive and the negatives of the proposal. So the positive being a need for the data centre infrastructure. Alternative sites were considered and were found not acceptable, and the location here and the reasons why it's been proposed here in the location. Also, we considered economic, environmental and social benefits and applied weighting to those, as well as the removal of the pylons. So the pylons that cross the site are being removed and the cables are being put underground, and we considered that to be a positive as well. In terms of negative, obviously significant harm to the green belt, including harm to the openness, local level harm to landscape character and setting, the harm identified to the Grade 2 listed building, as well as the loss of Grade 3B agricultural land. So this has been recommended for approval, subject to a call-in by Secretary of State and a completion of Section 106 and the planning conditions that are detailed in the report. So thank you, everyone.
Thank you very much, Katie, and apologies for the delay. Clarifications. Anybody? Clarifications?
Thank you, Katie, for the presentation. Just wanted to ask about the access. That's what we're talking about. So I've gone through the highways statement that they put into the report that you provided with the Ghost Junction, and I do remember the last one in 2023. I wasn't part of the committee then, but I was a member of the public who spoke. Am I right in saying that this junction will have measures to stop right-hand turns into Netherden Road from the site? Because I believe that was a big issue that was raised back in 2023, and is still and would still be considered to be an issue now, considering that the dual carriageways merge into one lane, approaching the roundabout at the BP garage. So left turn only from that lane, and measures to be put in to stop right-hand turns from the site itself.
Yeah, that is correct. You cannot turn right outside if you're exiting the site onto the Netherden Road. You could only turn left only. So there are going to be measures in place so you can't turn right onto Netherden Road.
In terms of the landscaping and the ecological side, in order to shield the houses and the residents who live along Old Netherden Road, what sort of tree planting is going to be proposed? Because I haven't got the full landscaping details. I mean, I can go on the planning portal and find the whole lot, but it's quite a lengthy document. But in terms of, you know, sort of, are there going to be semi-mature trees planted, mature trees planted, in order to immediately alleviate the effect of a 22-metre building not far away from their residence?
Yeah, so as part of this application outline for access only, so a landscaping will be a matter reserved for a later stage. There are conditions within the report that does request hard and soft landscaping. I'm just trying to find those for you. But in terms of the maturity of the trees, that is something that we can factor into the condition, that there can be semi-mature trees that are planted at the time to alleviate any concern with regard to scale and massing of the building coming forward. So that can be done. I'm just trying to find the... Yeah, so condition 24 and 25 relates to soft and hard landscaping, but obviously soft will be the one that you're most interested in. So that is condition 24, but we can factor into that mature or semi-mature trees can be planted.
Thank you, Chair. I've got a few questions actually, but I think looks like we've exhausted those from the other members. So, Katie, could you go back to the images that you showed of how this would look from the residences on Old Netherden Road, please? So I'm not the one at the bottom. I'm not totally sure where that is, to be honest. Could you advise?
Not on. So if you can see my cursor on the screen, so the picture here where it says existing buildings will be a representation of these properties here. So Four Riders being this property here in the corner, and then you've got these two residents further north of Four Riders, and that image at the bottom there represents those properties.
Okay, and obviously we talked about soft landscaping, but the trees you see there, are those existing trees or are they part of the plan?
So on the Google imagery is the current landscaping vegetation as it is at the moment. The landscaping shown on those images are, as I said, they're illustrative. So it will be the landscaping is a matter for reserve for later stage, and we can request additional planting, but obviously additional planting will be put forward anyway, but what's in front of you, that is just illustrative at the moment, and these images were taken from the design code that were submitted with the application. But say you've got the Google imagery that shows landscape at the moment, but that will be enhanced through the development.
Okay, and I'm not totally clear on those images where the west, extremity of the existing plots ends and where the site for the data centre development starts. I could see it says proposed fence, but I'm not sure if that's what we're talking. That is the junction, if you like, between the back of the gardens of those residences and the data centre site.
Yeah, so where can you see the red line on those? You might have to, Christine. So that's the boundary of the gardens. I mean, the fencing there, I think you're where there is saying proposed fencing, proposed trees, there is going to be fencing within the site because obviously the site needs to be secure from the public entering the site, basically. So there will be elements of landscaping that will be available to employees, but there will be I might show you actually in the, I mean, you can see some fencing here, which is boundary fencing within the site, but on the land, although this is illustrative, there will be, you can't really see it that clearly maybe, but where my cursor is here, you can see some dotted lines. So there will be fencing around the building because it has to be secure from public. But yeah, is that clear?
It is. Could you go back to the images of the residences again, please? Because looking at from this angle, that it suggests there's kind of almost an orchard between the buildings and the data centre. But actually, if you look at it from the plan view, that doesn't seem to be the case at all. So I'm not totally sure what I'm looking at there, to be honest.
I mean, bear in mind that these are illustrative. So, but you know.
So by the plan view, I meant the overhead view, that one, yeah.
Yeah. Sorry. Yeah. Did you hear that, Councillor Baker?
Kind of, but it would help if you repeated
yeah,
it.
Fine. So, as Christine was saying to me, you know, to make it clear that the trees on the other side of on the right-hand side of the red line are existing. Ones to the left are proposed, but you know they are indicative anyway. But you know, as Christine said, they will go back to Councillor Myers' point about the soft landscaping, which will come forward as part of Condition 24.
So we need to amend Condition 24.
Yes, yeah, we can. Yeah.
Sorry, so Councillor Myers was quite right. Condition 24 needs to be strengthened because what we say is the soft landscaping scheme shall show existing trees, which it does, hedgerows, then I think we need to add in here that the schedules and size and density and spacing of all trees, and that needs I would then put brackets, and that's including the location of mature and semi-mature trees. Then would make it very clear that the scheme can't just be a low grade landscaping scheme, that would get some further details at the you'd start to see the further details of that planting scheme at the reserve matter stage.
Okay, so that would be the trees directly in front of the building, then, would it? If you look at it from the overhead view, the plan view.
If I go back to that view, yes, there will be additional planting sort of around the properties.
Okay, sorry to labour the point, but is this additional planting where we're going to insist on semi-mature trees the section that's immediately in front of the building? Is that what we're saying?
Yeah, we will amend Condition 24 to say that.
Okay, thank you. Could you go to the slide showing the 106 contributions, please, Katie?
You want the non-monetary or monetary one?
Could you just run through again how we get to 2,033,000? Because I'm not understanding that. Sorry if I'm missing something obvious.
That's fine. So 1.3 million for the employment and skills contribution, over 7,000 for the workplace travel plan, and the sustainable transport will be approximately over 400,000. That's based on £17.40 per square metre, and the building will be approximately over 26,000 square metres, and also an additional voluntary offer of 2 million from the Education Fund. Does it not add up?
No, I don't think it does add up. It adds up to about 1.82 million.
Councillor Baker, you're always right with maths, aren't you? So the taking off the 2 million is not a consideration. It's not part of the balance. So if you take that off, you're quite right. It's 1.837, 1,837,820, and then the non consideration in terms of the balance is additional £2 million, and that's not taken into the planning balance. That's part of the change that the impact of the scheme, but we haven't looked at as part of the balance. So what that should say is the total 106 infrastructure that is part of the balance that in terms of the development is 1.85 rather than the 2.3 that. So there's an error in the calculation there.
Lovely, thanks. And just one last thing, in reference to the update sheet. Firstly, I think somebody mentioned neighbours, and the sheet actually says neighbour. So is this neighbour one neighbour, or is it several neighbours?
So one neighbour, a resident of Wickford, has commented. So the points 1 to 6, I think. Yeah, 1 to 6 is from a resident. Then underneath that, a petition was received. So the petition was actually from a person that lives outside of the borough, and designed a website petition which received 50 signatures to that petition. That petition, you don't get to see details of who signed it. So we've received 1 neighbour letter and 1 petition.
Okay, thank you. And sorry, am I at liberty to ask whether this Wickford resident is a resident who lives immediately adjacent to the site?
They don't live immediately adjacent, but they live in Wickford.
Thank you. And obviously, normally, I think when residents respond as part of the normal process, you would put a response in your officer's document to what they've said. So I'm guessing you haven't had time to address this in your report.
I haven't had time. I didn't have time to address it in the report because I received it this week. So I've just reported it as it is, as it came in.
Okay, so can you give us an overview of your view of the points made then, please, Katie?
Sure. Okay, so with the transport and construction impact, they refer to the operational traffic may be low, which, yeah, regular fuel deliveries, HGV movements. I mean, highways. The Highway Authority has considered all these points and hasn't raised an objection to these. However, you know, the resident has raised concerns about the road widening traffic impacts on residents, and they consider it to be severe. But as I said, Essex Highway County Council has considered these points and raised no objections to them. With regards to external lighting, they talk about upward lighting, but there isn't actually no. I mean, we have got a lighting condition attached to the application, but there will be no upward lighting. It will all be downward lighting, as well as the luminaires. Obviously, luminaires will not be bright. So you know there is a condition that will where lighting details need to be submitted to us to be considered. The building massing and visual impact is an outline application to consider in access only. So the massing and the visual impact will be considered at a reserve matter stage. Everything, you know, I know we're given building heights, but these are all indicative. With regards to noise assessment, again, the noise impact assessment was submitted with the application. Environment Health have reviewed the noise impact assessment and hasn't raised an objection to those. Air quality and emission, again, we had air quality reports submitted as part of the application, which have been considered carefully by Environmental Health, who has raised an objection. The waste heat recovery, so waste heat recovery. So there is a part of this application, I do refer to it in the committee report about the heat recovery. And there is a condition also attached. So paragraph on page 81, paragraph 5.16.5, I talk about the heat generated from the data centre. And there is a condition that also 19 that refers to the heat as well. So the condition actually talks about the developer putting infrastructure in up to the boundary. So for any future development coming forward in a nearby proximity, can connect up to the infrastructure where heat can be directly heat the homes, etc., or buildings. So those points have been covered in the committee report.
Great, thank you. So one last question from me, just going back to the junction. I know we talked about this before. Obviously I wasn't on the planning committee when this previous electric vehicle charging centre was approved. So just to be clear, whichever one of those is built first will precipitate the construction of the same junction.
That's correct. So this junction put forward replicates what was previously approved at that committee.
Thank you, that's all my questions.
Thank you, Councillor Bear. Councillor Schrader.
Thank you, Chairman. I just wanted to check with Miss Ellis. Hello, Miss Ellis. It's been a long time, hasn't it? On page 30, well actually 30 through to 32, we have quite a lengthy submission from the Essex County Council landscaping team, and they have all these concerns, and it ends, the conclusion is the proposed development would result in adverse landscape and visual impacts that cannot be fully mitigated. And then, having read through all of that, I then get to the comment on at the sort of top of page 32. There's officer note, the applicant has submitted a revised design code and illustrative landscape plan. ECC Landscaping were satisfied with the amendments submitted. So just for my own edification, having made all those objections, are we saying that having submitted that revised design code, ECC are now completely happy, or they're just satisfied with the amendments? I mean, do they still... It's not actually clear whether they still feel that there are visual impacts that cannot be fully mitigated.
So as part of the application, we worked with the agents regarding the consultation responses received. The design code was updated, taking into the key concerns and recommendations that are bullet pointed in that on page 31. They were all taken into consideration. They were addressed in the site plan in front of you is an indicative landscape plan, and the design code, which is on our website, takes into account all those points that were raised. We reconsulted with the Essex landscaping team, and they were content with the information put forward and satisfied, and it overcome their concerns that they previously raised.
So just to be clear, so all the points in these bullets on page 31 have been covered off by this revised scheme, and ECC Landscaping are now absolutely delirious with joy, couldn't be happier, no objections. Am I overstating the case a slight? Just a tad.
They are satisfied, yes.
Right, have you finished now, Councillor Schrader? Yeah, thank you. Any more clarifications, anybody? No? Oh, Councillor Jean.
Thank you very much, Chair. Just want to ask a quick question regarding the third-party representation that was made by the neighbour in regards to the air quality and the emissions. Obviously, the Dogs Trust sit opposite the site and should be considered an ecological receptor according to the neighbour. Now, my question is, what sort of assessment are we going to be doing to ensure that, or what assessment has been done to ensure the air quality doesn't affect the dogs? Because the last thing we need is any more dead dogs in our borough. Thank you very much.
Yeah, so in answer to your question, Councillor Genet, so as part of the application, an air quality assessment was submitted with the application. As part of that, there were air quality monitoring undertaken. The conclusions that came back from that is that it would be there will be no harm in terms of the environment and the air quality. There should not be an impact on the Dogs Trust opposite. That, as said previously, the environmental health officers have reviewed the air quality impact assessment that was submitted and was satisfied with the works that were carried out and the conclusion that this development would not have a harm on air quality in the area. So hopefully that satisfies your concern that you've just raised.
Thank you very much, it does. Thank you.
Any more questions? No clarifications? Right, we'll go straight into speakers now. We have a remote speaker, which is Bill Marshall. Are you there, Mr. Marshall?
Yes, I'm here. Can you hear me?
If you'd like to start now, we're ready for you. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Good evening. Thank you for allowing me to speak and contribute to tonight's planning committee meeting. Committee members are to consider this outline application, which is of great importance to Wickford, Basildon, Essex and the wider United Kingdom. I support this outline application for approval, as does the Principal Planning Officer, who has just spoken and presented, who recommends at page 66, points 611 and 612 of the executive summary, that the committee resolves to grant this outline planning permission for 25.00.550 out. Outline planning permission should be granted. Data centres are classed as critical national infrastructure and can be considered under the special circumstances. The benefits certainly do, with this application, outweigh any perceived harm. This data centre proposal provides improved and enhanced infrastructure, large inward project investment funding, business, employment and educational opportunities, National Health Service and healthcare data facilities, defence features, connectivity to the wider data centre networks, future-proofing capabilities, like the just announced compulsory ID card processing. This exciting application and proposal should be welcomed and approval granted by this committee. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Marshall. We have another speaker now, which is Georgina Brotherton. Would you like to come forward? And you'll see the microphone is a red button. If you want to press that, you have 3 minutes. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair, and good evening, members. This application has been several years in the making. We've worked very closely with your officers as part of a PPA process, as well as key consultees, and have thought very carefully about the design and how Basildon can capture the substantial benefits while minimising any impacts. Economically, this would represent a 1.3 billion investment in a piece of critical national infrastructure, which, as your economic development team and the Chamber of Commerce have said, will act as a catalyst for even more investment in the area. The scheme would provide 1.8 million in Section 106 contributions and a further voluntary contribution of 2 million to a new education fund. It will put Basildon on the map as a centre of the growing data economy. But how are we mitigating the impacts? We've met with Whitby Town Council several times and consulted local residents, so we're aware of the issues that we had to address. Firstly, we recognise that the site is in the green belt, but it is contained by 3 roads. Planning permission has already been granted immediately adjacent to this site for an electric vehicle charging station development, and the site is identified in the new local plan, Regulation 18, Consultation for Development. We are also proposing a 34.5 acre local nature reserve to the east, which will play an important role in permanently maintaining the strategic gap between Basildon and Wickford. Secondly, there are a small number of homes nearby, and we've carefully considered this in the design of the scheme. The data centre building has been placed as far away as possible from these homes, with the taller scale elements located furthest away. The existing dwellings have mature tree planting already along their rear boundaries, which screen them from the site, and further tree planting is proposed to provide extra screening. A suitable lighting scheme will also be agreed to ensure that residential amenity is protected. Thirdly, the scheme will share the access road as proved as part of the EV charging scheme, which is supported by the Highway Authority. Crucially, our scheme will result in minimal additional traffic, with staff operating across 3 shifts that won't coincide with peak hours. Lastly, we've engaged with Essex and Suffolk Water to agree a sustainable approach to water use. Our scheme will use a closed-loop cooling system that will recirculate and reuse the same water, unlike other data centres. In summary, for the reasons set out in the committee report, the overall benefits of the data centre scheme represent very special circumstances, which justify the grant of planning permission. I hope you agree that these proposals will provide a real boost for Basildon's economy and profile, and that the impacts have been carefully mitigated. Thank you for your time.
Thank you very much. Go straight into members of the committee that'd like to speak on this. Is there anybody here? Councillor Schrader.
Thank you, Chairman. Yeah, I'll jump straight back in. Well, obviously the elephant in the room is that this is an application in the Greenbelt, in more than 7 hectares of it, in fact. And the report underscores that there is very high harm identified in terms of urban sprawl and coalescence, and high harm in terms of encroachment into the countryside. And we also have some feedback from the county heritage officer about the harm to the setting of a grade 2 listed heritage asset. So these are not inconsiderable hurdles. And then obviously we move to very special circumstances. Critical national infrastructure, lack of an alternative site, economic benefits. So in other words, we need it, we can't find anywhere else to put it, and it comes with a whole heap of cheddar. Those are not inconsiderable considerations. I am quite drawn to the resident referred to on page 36. And it says here, the resident was previously refused permission for a small extension due to greenbelt restrictions. However, now a large-scale development is being proposed. And this is one of these things that does just bothers me about the whole way that we deal with greenbelt applications now, because it's become increasingly apparent that the greenbelt is not quite so sacrosanct as we all once thought it was. You know, as I've said to some of my residents many times, you know, the greenbelt's not all it was cracked up to be. And I mean, I know of at least 2 other applications I can think of over the years where you know, just an ordinary resident had a house in the greenbelt and they got permission to knock it down as a replacement dwelling, and then life intervened for, you know, all sorts of reasons. You know, a business failed, they didn't have the money to do it, and then it grasses over. The permission lapses, they come back, and they're told, you can't do it, it's in the greenbelt. Tough gazungas. So now they've got this plot of land they can do literally nothing with. I know at least 2 people that happened to. And of course all the low residents, ordinary residents up and down the borough, who have homes that are in the greenbelt and they want to do an extension, or they want to do this, they want to do that, and they're told no, you can't do it because it's in the greenbelt, can't be touched, sorry. And then someone comes along with a whole load of inducements and goodies and mitigations and Section 106 agreements and shoves us a whole load of benefits, and they're allowed to do what they want. And that does grate with me. The benefits are considerable and the infrastructure is clearly needed, but it always comes at the cost of the greenbelt.
Schreider, can I just stop you a minute? Legal.
Councillor Schrader, I think some of the matters you've raised aren't relevant to this application, so I'd ask you to make your comments relevant to the consideration of this application.
I've obviously been off the committee for too long. In my day, we were more or less allowed to say whatever we wanted. It seems to me that we're discussing the principle of a green belt development, and my point is, and I won't extemporise on it any further, but just that it seems that there are one rule for ordinary residents and one rules for these big schemes, and I don't dismiss the benefits. The benefits are clearly considerable, and as I've said, the infrastructure is needed. There's no dispute about that. We know we need these kinds of facilities, but it always comes at the cost of the greenbelt. Now, albeit this is greenbelt that's sandwiched between two roads, and it's even the report before us makes clear that it's not high yield valuable agricultural land, but at the moment I'm not sure how I feel about this scheme. I'm very seduced by the economic benefits that the scheme will bring, but it does gnaw at me that we have a principle here, around whether we're protecting the greenbelt or not, and it's not clear to me at this point whether we're really interested in protecting the greenbelt anymore at all.
Thank you, Councillor Schrader. Anybody else wish to speak on this? Alex.
Thank you, Chair. Yes, I mean, Councillor Schrader there just summed up quite a lot of the points I was going to make. It is a clearly needed investment in infrastructure which the country has found itself in. Everyone is using technology and AI more often than not, and it requires horrendous amounts of processing power and electricity in order to fund. So I do understand the circumstances in which they have to find locations which can supply that particular service. So we just about the direct connection to the power. What I found interesting in the report about the power was that they were going to be using the Netherden substation temporarily and then going to the Rayleigh substation. Now, I'm a bit concerned, we haven't seen it yet, but perhaps it'll come out in the full application of what exactly they're proposing to do. Because if they're going to join with the Rayleigh substation for this site, that is a long way. That is a lot of digging and laying down cables to connect themselves to it, because we've seen it before with applications for solar farms, etc., in order to be pumping and getting access to these sites. Now, if they can temporarily use it at Netherden, which isn't far away, but then want to then go use Rayleigh, there then has to be some form of connection they need to find in order to get to Rayleigh. I know we're talking about outline tonight, but I think that's a consideration that we need to be clear and thinking about going forwards of how they're actually going to connect to the Rayleigh main substation, which is a good few miles away. It reminds me of the application that was in Thurrock, which went to Rayleigh as well, and I think it was something along the lines of about 5.5 miles, which was just crazy to dig up a road for 5.5 miles to lay a cable when there wasn't one nearby, but there we go. But this land, as Councillor Schrader quite rightly said, is in the green belt. It's this bit of land we've seen in the report is very highly rated in terms of its use for stopping urban sprawl and coalescence of towns. If you travel into Wickford from Basildon, you've got the Dogs Trust on the left, which you don't see because of the hedgerows, but when you come into Wickford, that is the first open space you see before you come to the houses on the right of Netherden Road. And as you leave Wickford going to Basildon, that is the open space you see before joining the A127 and the Dogs Trust on the right to then go into Basildon. The coalescence of between the two towns should not occur. There is a point where the merging of Mega City 1, to take from one of my favourite films, Dread, should not happen. It shouldn't. There has to be a gap between the towns that we all represent. There should not be coalescence between those. Now, whilst I respect and see the opportunities afforded by this development, and I have read the report about the other sites that they considered, including the Tovey Eco Plant, which has got pylons nearby. They could use it. I'm sure that the Tovey Eco Plant also had fibre optics nearby. But it just says in the report they don't own the land. Well, that's not our problem, is it? That's a their problem. So we can't see it as being like they've explored all avenues. Well, do we know, have they? So the issue here is twofold. There is many positives, but there are many negatives to this scheme. The use of land in this location should not be developed on. It is very clear that the Greenbelt purposes as they exist, and as the officer rightly says, it's not grey belt and currently doesn't meet the so-called golden rules, etc., but meets very highly the situations of what what Greenbelt stands for and what it has stood for, should not be overlooked lightly. But then when we see an application like this, of which we consider it, again, as you rightly say, and as the agent said, critical national infrastructure, well, if it's critical national infrastructure, then you can go and got the means to find somewhere where it won't affect an area that will not coalesce the two towns of Wickford and Basildon. You must have the means in order to do so. If you're going to pump in £1 billion into building this place, then you can find couple of £100 million to buy the Tovey site. You can find a couple of £100 million to go to St Modwins, which was only passed a couple of weeks ago, and use their humongous warehouse and stick it in there. So I don't agree with the fact that in the alternative site situation. I think there is scope where they can find an alternative site that doesn't hinder the Greenbelt as strongly as this does in this location it is. So, like Andrew, Councillor Schrader, it is a difficult one, but I think there is a precipice here of the coalescence of two towns, and I don't think I can vote on it just based on that. I think they can find an alternative location. I think the investment is very warranted into the borough, but this location isn't the right one for this. Thank you.
Councillor Myers, Councillor Baker.
Thank you very much, Chair. Yes, just building on that point, I'd just like to ask the officer, this site at the moment is private land, right apart from a public footpath running across the bottom right-hand corner. So there's no public access to the land as it stands, is that correct?
That is correct, yeah.
So the question I wanted to ask was, I'm just trying to work it out from the schematic on page 59 of the report, but it looks like there is an element, a fairly significant element of open land that the public could access were this development to go ahead. I just wanted to check whether that's actually correct or not.
Page 59.
Sure, the diagram I was looking at's on page 59 of the agenda.
Yeah, so so what the diagram you're looking at is what I was showing in the presentation. So that's the indicative landscape plan. So that landscaping, so the public right of way will remain as it is, but will be enhanced in the site. But the ponds and the landscaping around the data centre can only be accessed by employees, although there is a public right of way. So any public using site should only stick to the public right of way, but the other recreational areas in the site can only be used by employees of the data centre. Does that make sense?
I'm not totally clear. So obviously the public footpath runs along the bottom, the south-east corner. But looking at that diagram on page 59, it also looks like there are other paths adjoining to that public footpath. So does the public have access to those or not?
they'll have access to the public right of way, which goes along the northern boundary. So that squiggly line that goes up to the A127. So that public right of way, which is currently there at the moment, obviously not in that alignment. So that will be amended, enhanced with landscaping, etc. But they won't be able to have access into the remainder of the site because that is purely just for employment only.
Okay, sorry, I didn't understand your explanation as to where the current public footpath is, because you said onto the northern boundary on the way A127, but then A132 is on the northern boundary.
So that, can you see that dashed line in the lower corner there? So that is currently the public right of way that goes across the land up. Well, I drew that on there, so it's but that's roughly where it is. So it goes up to the A127, and as part of this application, they are keeping the public right of way. However, they are realigning it. So it'd be that squiggly line that still goes up to the A127 and enhancing it with landscaping. On the, did I say what? I don't know, sorry, southern boundary. I didn't mean to say northern, southern.
Yeah, sorry, that's what confused me. No, that's fine. Thank you. That's answers my question.
Anybody else? Councillor Journay.
Thank you very much, Chair. So I just want to reiterate what our friends in the Conservatives, Councillor Schrader and Councillor Myers, regarding obviously the balance in regards to the pros and cons of this particular application. Obviously over £1 billion worth of investment and 1,500 plus jobs in the local area is not to be sniffed at. But very much like we've said before, when we start building on Greenbelt in this particular way, I mean, these are multi-hectare sites, once we build on it, we never go back. And quite frankly, we're finding ourselves planning meeting after planning meeting after planning meeting in a situation where we're signing off on Greenbelt sites. Now, again, the positives of the application being the amount of jobs and the amount of money coming into the area. But again, quite rightly what Councillor Myers said in regards to the separation between Basildon and Wickford. We're losing our identity as a particular borough. And I also want to make a very, very clear point as well, especially around the Dogs Trust. Now, we're saying here that there's going to be no particular issues with the dogs over there. I implore the Dogs Trust, if this does pass tonight, to keep an eye on the particular pollution and what's going to come from this particular site. Because if we find ourselves in another situation where dogs are dying in our borough, I think that's a big thing. And I think, given the fact that the council are very clear in the way they deal with these particular situations, it is on Dogs Trust to ensure that they keep an eye on and they monitor this particular situation as it goes through, if it's voted on tonight. But I think, again, because of the positives of the particular planning application, and it goes very much against what reform is about, building on Greenbelt, we prefer to build on Brownfield. However, 1,500 plus jobs, over £1 billion worth of investment, I think it would be stupid for Basildon Borough Council not to pass this through this evening. But again, we need to be very careful about how much Greenbelt we're actually building on, because it gets to a point where we're going to have none left. I mean, you're going to start pointing out that particular fields or areas become grey belt and there's going to be none left. So again, the Dogs Trust need to ensure that they're monitoring this air pollution and what comes from it, because we cannot have another situation like we had. Thank you very much.
Anybody else? No? I'd just like to say something. I'd like to support this application this evening. I think that we're lucky enough to have this investment in Basildon. Really lucky. The government recently have saved 500 million because of AI. And this will help us as well in Basildon. Jobs, investments, money for our school, some money for pupils as well, coming forward, bringing this on. It's employment as well. I took what Councillor Myers said about security. I think that place where it is more secure than anything. So I haven't got a problem with that. The Dogs Trust, I fought for years to get that Dogs Trust there, and we all support it. So we wouldn't want anything more happening to the dogs. But I am going to support this application tonight. And as I said, I think we are lucky enough in Basildon and Wickford to be chosen to have this centre. Thank you. I'm going to go straight into the recommendation now, if nobody else doesn't wish to speak. That planning application number 2500550 out be granted conditional planning permission subject to no calling powers being exercised by the Secretary of State, the completion of a 106 agreement to secure an employment and skills contribution, improvements to sustainable transport, a workplace travel plan, including monitoring fees and the maintenance and monitor of the approved biodiversity game plan for a period of 30 years, and payment of the local planning authority's professional and legal fees, and the cost of monitoring associated with the completion of the 106 legal agreement as set out in section 519 and subject to the conditions set out at the end of the report, with any amendments that might be necessary up to the issue of the decision notice. All those in favour, please show. I think that's carried. Have we any abstentions? Abstentions? No? All those against, please show. Thank you. Thank you, everyone.
Second application, now the local nature reserve one, on page 206.
206. Okay. Yes. Thank you, everyone. We will now go on to item 5, which is 25005514, change of use of public land to form a local nature reserve with public access, provisions of footways, landscaping and biodiversity enhancements, including ponds, land south of Neverton Road, Wickford. I think this is you again.
We're taking the applications together so you can go straight to the recommendation.
Oh, are we? Oh, okay. All right.
On page 206.
Okay, yes.
And you can go straight into the recommendation.
We're going to take these applications together so we can go straight into the recommendations, which is that planning application number 25005514 be granted conditional planning permission, including the completion of a 106 agreement to secure a nature reserve management plan and the maintenance and monitoring of the approved biodiversity game plan for a period of 30 years. Payment of the local planning authorities, professional and legal fees, and the cost of monitoring associated with the completion of the 106 legal agreement as set out in section 5.10 and subject to the conditions set out at the end of the report, with any amendments that might be necessary up to the issue of the decision notice. All those in favour, please show. I think that's fully granted. Thank you, everyone. And I think that's the end of our planning tonight. Thank you, everyone, for coming. Thank you.